What's up, everybody? It's Bryan here, your one and only audio professor here at UVU. Just kidding, not the only one, but we're here with Neal from Royal Bliss. We're here actually in the studio for the first time, which is awesome. It's still a little bit under construction behind us, but it's a pleasure to have Neal here from Royal Bliss. He's also a local guy from Utah, so we figured we'd get some input from the industry now that he's been out and about being a big famous rock star. And we're going to ask him about his relationship with the engineers and the producers while he's in the studio. Let's start this off. I mean, you've been in the studio, you've been in a band for 17 years?
Well, 14 years with Royal Bliss. So
14 years Royal Bliss has been around. You guys have gone to a whole host of different kinds of studios, and from big studios, small studios, major, funding behind it, funding where you're providing labor for the studio construction on it. But what the overall thing that happens when you go in and record? What's the relationship got to be with you and the engineer?
Well, it's, we've been learning over the years. I don't want me to take it. Yeah. Anyways, Bryan. We've learned so much, like being in the studio. We've done, I think, 8 records. And I've been in, different studios for pre-production all over the country. And you learn every time something new that you enjoy about that experience, that something works better. Like finally I figured out the microphone that works for me is the SM7, because I sing extremely loud, and that mic can handle the loudness. But the first studios, put me on Neumann's and these super little, like $10,000 mics, and using auto-tune and stuff back in the day, and then not realizing what I didn't like about the sound. And then finally, a few studios later, working with Matt Weiniger at his studio in Salt Lake, and Rob Dacre up in Portland, and Brian Virtue out in Nashville, and we worked with a bunch of extremely talented people, where I realized that the synthetic nature of auto-tune and Beat Detective and all these weird computer programs I didn't like. So there's all sorts of millions of different little things that you change. Like first studio was completely sober and white and pale everywhere and just super high tech, and you kind of almost felt uncomfortable. And then going into recording in Matt's mom's house, where he was just set up there, where it was a little bit more laid back and you could have a good time, and except for carpet smelled like cat pee, and you had to be out before his mom got home at 5 o'clock. And so there's just, and finally Portland was the most comfortable we've ever been, but it was mainly a party. But it was just like finding that comfort zone in the studio, because we're a better live band than we are a studio band, because you have people that watch you and cheer you on, and the energy you get from the crowd. But finally in Portland with Rob Dacre, cool studio, like he did Poison there, and a couple other, I'm gonna forget all the bands that he's done, but anyways, I'm not a name dropper guy. But just being able to come in and be yourself. And if you wanted to make a cocktail before you went in there, you can make a cocktail. If you wanted to smoke stuff, you could, if you wanted to smoke stuff. I'm still in Provo right now, I gotta be careful. Anyway, Orem, yeah, but anyways, it was just, being able to be yourself. And that was the key thing, I think, that we learned later. That was Life in Between. That was our 6th or 7th record that we finally figured that out. And, but then the next CD we did with Brian Virtue, the latest one that we have out right now. And he's completely sober dude, didn't smoke, didn't drink, and just had a game plan that he went by. And, we had a really good time with Life in Between, but it was like we spent 2 months up there, and I don't hardly remember a whole lot about it. Just ended up with a record because it was a party, and it was a blast. It was the rock and roll experience. We were on Capitol Records, and sorry, I ramble a lot. I just talk. But so then going with Brian, it was nice to have that all focuses on music. And it wasn't like, well, so we got to get someone to the liquor store before it closes, which was such a major focus of Life in Between. And, he just had a goal, and he, out of all the other producers, he was just like, I don't want you guys to go find a bunch of vintage guitars and vintage amps that you don't use on live shows. And that's what we did on every other record pretty much, was like, we got to find a really cool guitar. Let's go to Guitar Center and buy it so we can return it in 3 days and just use it on this one song. And Bryan was just like, no, I'm not. You're going to use the same stuff you've been using for 14 years. Taylor, you're using your Gibson, and you're going to go through the orange head or your Marshall head or whatever and use exactly what you use on stage because, I mean, that's where we're comfortable with that sound. So, I mean, and who knows what I'll learn in the next experience, but, you know, like, to be a little clear-headed, so don't get drunk at 8 o'clock in the morning and then try to sing all day, and you know, use your instruments. A lot of people, you know, like the technical guys out there will want to use like a, you know, super vintage guitar through a, you know, old Bassman or something like that, you know, you don't own, and you're not going to take it with you, and your sound isn't going to be the same when you're live. So, I mean, it's, so yeah, I mean, I could go on forever on the things I've learned in the studio, but for one, don't cheat. If you can't sing, don't use auto-tune, learn how to sing. But this is all audio engineers, right? Tell the singers that you're recording, okay? Go home. I mean, you're going to make more money anyways because you're going to be charging them by the hour. Go home and learn how to sing the damn part. Tell the same thing to the guitarist instead of, you know, tweaking it a little bit on the tuning thing. And tell the same thing to the drummer instead of using Beat Detective. Be like, go home and study the damn thing. And don't cheat by using a computer. I know it's easy, it's fast, it's quick money. But if you want to create something that's really good and original and powerful and something that doesn't sound like anything else, use that person's tone, because every person is unique and it's an individual. I know it's a pain in the ass, and sometimes artists don't take it like, oh, I'm awesome, you can't tell me I suck. But tell them they suck, because at the end of the day, they're going to be grateful that you told them that, so they went home and practiced, because it's like, now I can play that part. Now the computer, and I want to get up live on stage, I'm not like, oh, I forgot, I don't even know how to play this. What am I going to do live? They know how to play it, and they'll be grateful and appreciate you, and bands are going to talk about you at that point because you learned by working with that engineer. So, all right, now let's go to the next question, see how long I talk on that.
It's all right. We like it because you've given us a lot of good information in there. All right. So you brought up a whole bunch of good points about things that need to happen in the studio, and one of those, because we're dealing with audio engineering students, is don't be afraid to tell the artist that something's off or not right and make them go practice it. But what's a tactful way for an engineer to do that?
Well, it's all about reading the player, because, I mean, each person, bass players are really awkward individuals for the most part. I'm just going to be honest with you. They're either OCD or just a little off. So you got to just find a different way to talk to each person, or you can be like Matt Weiniger in Salt Lake and just be really straight up and be like, you suck, you should learn how to play your instrument before you come in the studio, which can be harsh. But you know, if you have a guy that's really intense and wants to be better, then, you know, give it, be completely honest, and don't beat around the bush. And I mean, you want them, and maybe present it like that, be like, you know, I want you to have the best sounding record you can. I know you can play this part better. Maybe today isn't the right day, or maybe just take a break. We'll take a few minutes, maybe we can rehearse it, and we'll come back and try it again, which is usually it's a good thing to try anyways, because it's like, if you're going over it and over and over it and can't do it, you need to clear your head a little bit and get out of the studio situation where it's intense and you feel like everybody's looking at you, or even if it's just you and the engineer, it's still, you're like, oh man, I gotta hit that note. So sometimes you just need to walk away. That's a good thing. And if they come back and still can't do it, just be like, let's move on to the next song, and maybe go home tonight and just practice it, because, you know, I just want it. I know you can nail it. I know it's going to sound awesome. Just give it a few more runs through and come back tomorrow and with a fresh head, and we'll do it again, which is always an easy way out. And then if you can't do it again, then I guess go ahead and use Beat Detective or whatever, auto-tune, but really try to make that player learn it. And if you have to be harsh, but, you know, read the person himself. You know, the younger, the harder it is for the kid to understand and listen. Even me back in the day, I didn't want to hear that I was off key or something. I'd get really frustrated, because a lot of the times the engineers have better ears than the musicians, because they're listening for that note. And I'll be like, I can't even tell what you're talking about. I'm perfect in key. You're dumbass. Get out of here. Blah, blah, blah. Can I say ass? I don't really know. Okay. I don't know who you're showing this to.
I'll put it on YouTube partially, you know, but students will get to see it.
Okay. I'll try to be fairly edited then. It's all for you. That's why I'm down here in Provo. It's for you. I mean Orem. Sorry.
Okay.
I know there's huge difference down here. There's a line where 800 South Orem becomes 800 South in Provo. Yeah, it's really weird. Yeah, something
like 800 South, 800 North.
Yeah, where it switches. Yeah, it always throws me off. Anyways, yeah. So back to back to that. Yeah, just learn, try to read the person, read the player, and make sure you as an engineer, don't be lazy. Your name's on that thing, and if you want to sound like every other producer out there using the computer, then go ahead and push the button. But if you want to be better than everybody else, make the player play and use your engineering skills to get them to do it right.
So you said this last time that you went in the studio, that was the producer's focus, was really getting the performance out of you guys. When you look back, and the album comes out pretty soon here, when you look back at this album compared to the other albums you've released, what's your like initial gut feeling in your response to how the album feels?
To me, it's just more mature, I guess, would be the right word. You know, like Life in Between, I said, like we were partying every single day and just living the rock star life, like we're on Capitol Records, la la la. And it sounded great. It was really raw, and Rob Baker did an amazing job. He's a phenomenal producer. But with this one, it was just a little bit more focus on the music, I think, and on the record, and doing it right and being there on time and not going out partying every night so my voice is messed up the next day or anything like that. And the record, I think it sounds like that, from the songwriting to the tone that Bryan brought to it. He's been an engineer for a long time. He's produced, you know, like Audio Slave and Chevelle, and he was Bob Ezrin's protege, and which is pretty remarkable. So yeah, first and foremost, it's just a new level for us, maturity and evolution of the band. So that's what we're here.
So when you let's hype up your album a little bit, right? It's gonna be released. We're gonna have this out. People are gonna start, you know, getting a little buzz on it. You just said that you released a single a couple days ago. You're getting some really good feedback from it because you hit some, I can't remember what position you said on the charts, but talk about this new album. Talk about the differences in the approach of songwriting. You have some different players in your band. How did that affect what you guys were doing?
Well, it's like when we recorded it, we had Tommy Mortensen was still the bass player, and he finished out the record, and then that was, you know, it. It was tough to get him to stay in Nashville and finish it, and I totally understand why. He had a wife and kid at home. Well, the kid was coming, and he's just like, I just can't do it anymore. I just want to be with my family, and I don't blame him because I feel the same way. So he luckily finished out the record, and we had to bring in a new bass player once we started touring, and it changed the live set a little bit, just the vibe of the band overall. But I mean, it's difficult when you switch out members. It changes, especially when you have a chemistry that's already going there. And we just got rid of Chris Harding. He's you know, moving on to different things in his life, and so now it's a 4-piece. So I'm really anxious to go into the studio next time, because it's like it's a whole new person with a whole new chemistry. But we did go back into Portland a few weeks ago and recorded just a few demos, which was awesome. Chemistry was good. We were able to knock some stuff down, and it just flowed. And Waiting Out the Storm, and it actually came out January 24th, so it's out.
Oh, it's out.
So you can get it anywhere, any record store, on iTunes, Amazon, all the places, all over the world. The new song is Crazy, and it was just 47 on the rock charts, and it just came out. So we're excited about that, because it's a tough thing to do. We're independent now. We're off of Capitol Records. We don't have people holding our hands or telling us what to do anymore, and you know, we're in this independent record, you know, label mentality of doing it on our own, which is the way to do it nowadays. And I think it's even coming to, you know, studio and everything else. It's a lot of bands and a lot of, you know, engineers probably in your class are musicians, and for them to learn that skill of being able to record in their basement or anything like that, if you're a good engineer and you have the right, you know, mic breeze and microphones and the right kind of room and sound, and just know what you're doing, you can do a phenomenal record in a teeny little room. And so it's in the future, I wouldn't mind buying a studio and recording everything in our own studio and having our own merch press and everything else like that. So it'd be all in-house. But yeah, so I don't know. Can't even remember what the question was. I'm just kind of off on something else. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting future to see, like, out there. And engineers, I mean, golly, I don't even know what the hell I'm doing half the time in here. And I learned on Pro Tools back in the day when it first came out, like Pro Tools 90 or what? Was that what it was called?
Sound replacer, and it wasn't Pro Tools. It was like Sound Designer or something.
Something so weird.
Something really, it is old.
I learned on that, and I haven't been back since. But that's where you guys come in handy, and it's like I can find somebody I trust, and just be like, and a lot of engineers become producers too, and just know the sound and help those young bands out to be able to, hopefully survive 14 years in this industry, which is not an easy thing to do. And I found my first gray hair in my beard the other day. Getting old.
Yeah.
But it's just a number.
So let's just, because I know a lot of my students are musicians. In fact, part of an engineer, unless you're really focused on TV and stuff, you have to have a musical ear. You got to be able to understand it. Give us some advice for musicians that are trying to make it. I mean, even Ricardo back here is one of my students behind the camera. He's doing beat producing and stuff like that, and he's trying to get his name known. DJ Don Ricky, by the way, just in case you guys out there checking it out, DJ Don Ricky.
Yeah.
You guys, how does he go out or even Trevor capture an audio for us in a band trying to make it? What's Rossi's Tide? How do they go out, and how do they get a foot in the door and get started?
Oh man. Well, I mean, it always starts nowadays with the social media, just getting your music up and out there to people, and being persistent every day. It's like a 9-to-5 job, or a 12-hour shift every day, where you need to be out there promoting yourself shamelessly. Like when we started, I would have, luckily some of the shows, clubs around here like Liquid Joe's, you'd get to have tickets, and you can give your tickets away, and then you got paid on it, and then people get in for free to your concerts, and I would give away 1,000 of those damn things to the guy at the Taco Bell and anything like that. I mean, it's just getting your name out there. And us as a band, if you have beats and you have a CD or even a demo, a 4-song demo, 5-song demo, print up a bunch of them and give them out. If you print up 1,000, which, it's pricey, but if you print up 1,000 CDs that are gonna cost you about $1,000, $1,200, and you need to sell 150 of those in order to make your money back, give away 500 of those CDs and get your name out there. I mean, that's how we did it in the beginning. I'd give CDs all over the place, but then we started, packing it in our shows. And a lot of guys don't think about it like that, but it's like if you can't sell 150 CDs, then you're doing something wrong, And so it's just true. So you just got to believe in yourself and know that it takes money to make money. But if you do that, like 500 CDs and sell 500, then you just made, $3,600 profit. $3,800 profit, whatever. And so yeah, that's one easy way to do it. And then what I did was got in the Geo Metro because it gets good gas mileage, and I took a ton of CDs, me and Taylor, our lead guitarist, and our sound guy at the time, Brett Morgan, and we drove to every city in the western United States with a press kit, which is just, describes your band, has any write-ups that you got in the paper and CD and all that stuff. And we went to every single live music venue where we went and found like a City Weekly or In Utah magazine of that city, and would just drive around to the clubs that had bands that were similar to us, or acoustic bands, or whatever style of music you are, and we'd go in and give them a CD and hang out, have a drink with a bartender, and be like, who books the shows? If they happen to be there, we'd sit there and talk to them, and so they remembered. I mean, it's a hard way of doing it, but I mean, again, it's an investment. I mean, a lot of people don't realize, it's going to cost money, and it's going to take a lot of time. And you really better want to do it for a living, because it's not it's the hardest job I've ever done in my entire life. And it continues. The bigger you get, like now we have our own tour bus, and we have, we're with UEG management and a bunch of stuff like that. So it's just like, I don't know, you got to be prepared to work your ass off, be persistent, and practice harder than anybody, and know your instrument. And yeah. Cool. Good. Yeah.
First time for everything,
Yeah,
right?
stuff, man. I'm in the film industry.
You're going to be doing a music video here soon. Before we close this out, I just want to hype that. You're going to be doing a music video, for Crazy?
Yep.
And you're going to be doing that in Wendover, right?
Yeah. I'm excited. We're working with Chris Lee and a bunch of amazing. Ricardo's going to be rocking it out with us, a bunch of amazing film people. And I'm stoked. It's our first real music video. We've never done one where we're actually in it. It's always something else where we're not in it, which is, I don't know, I'm not the most attractive man, but I think they're just going to put a bunch of dirt on me, and it's going to be good, so no one has to look at my face.
Well, we're here with Neal, Royal Bliss. Go make sure to check them out, royalbliss.com. If you guys haven't heard of Royal Bliss, like I said, kind of a hometown hero right here from Utah. They went through, made it huge. They're out there on the road all the time with big bands. You're coming out on tour. You'll be here May 3rd with Saliva, was it May 3rd?
I think we don't know how I'll get the final routing on Tuesday. The 23rd of March, though, we'll be at the depot, just ourselves. And then we'll come back with Saliva and 12 Stones because we'll be out with those guys. And Buck Cherry a few dates, so I don't really know. It's one of those things. We'll find out Tuesday, which will probably means we'll find out in 2 weeks.
It's part of the music industry.
Yeah.
And rock and roll for you. Everyone's a little bit hungover sometimes. So, all right, well, appreciate it. Thanks for coming down to the studio here at UVU, and we'll be looking forward to seeing what you guys do in the future.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, guys.